Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Hope we're all having a wonderful start to our new week. And after looking at today's models, we're really starting to get some consensus on really a pretty impressive pattern change on the way. And that's definitely going to bring some cooler temperatures as well as some unsettled weather, including likely multiple days of severe weather here within the next week or so. So we're definitely going to talk about that in today's video. And it looks like we're going to get a couple of impressive storm systems to roll on through sections of the country. But when all is said and done, everyone pretty much in the lower 48 will be impacted by at least one of these storm systems before kind of this work week and through this weekend is over. So very active stuff on the horizon, and we're definitely going to break that down. Also, some housekeeping things at the beginning here. I do want to apologize for today's video coming out a little bit later than normal. Unfortunately, I had a 5 o'clock exam today, so that just made kind of the timing of trying to get this out at the normal 4 to 5 o'clock time difficult, obviously, as you can imagine. So luckily, I'm done with that exam, so now I can go ahead and record this and get this out. So again, I apologize for that. Also, if you're new here, definitely consider subscribing and liking the video, and let me know where you're watching from if you're new. And also, I want to say thank you to everyone that let me know on yesterday's video where you are all watching from. That really helps me to kind of plan for these videos and talk about, what specific parts of the country I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on. And just makes probably your experience better as well watching the video. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into that forecast. So we'll start here with our hazards right now, and we're pretty much all clear here across the east, but things are a bit different back out towards the middle part of the country, and especially out west. We do have still some leftover winter storm warnings and blizzard warnings up for sections of Minnesota and Wisconsin as that storm system is finally beginning to pull away, but still enough of that moisture left over that we're getting some of those conditions to continue to stay deteriorated through that section of the country. Also, some flood warnings up here into the northern Great Plains, again, because of that snowpack melting. That is going to help to kind of raise some of these rivers and streams. And even if you're kind of in some of these areas further south, maybe in a place like Iowa where you might not have so much snowpack, all this is going to eventually, flow downstream. So we're going to also have to watch for those river rises places further to the south as well, potentially having some of those problems. Out west, we have some red flag warnings and some wind advisories, but nothing too crazy out that way. So we're going to kind of gloss over that a little bit. And also, I really just don't talk about West Coast weather all that much because, to my knowledge, I don't really have many people watching from the West Coast. And also, the West Coast is really its own behemoth of forecasting. You can have very sharp gradients here in the East Coast. Sure, we have the Appalachian mountain chain, but the weather's only going to be so different in a place like Asheville compared to Charlotte, and that's easy enough to forecast. But going the difference from the valleys of California to the tops of the Sierra Nevada are just so crazy different that it's quite a forecasting challenge and just takes so much time to explain those differences. So I try to just kind of stay away from that. But if you are from out west, let me know, and I'll start trying to cover that area a little bit more in my videos because I'm always looking for ways to grow, and I think that would be maybe a fun thing to kind of start looking into the future. But as for now, we're going to continue talking about places here east of the Rockies. And speaking of east of the Rockies, this storm system is still cranking up here over the Great Lakes, continuing to bring some of that snow here through sections of Wisconsin, Minnesota, as well as Michigan, and even a little bit of rain here through sections of Ohio potentially, but nothing too crazy right now, at least in terms of precipitation rates, but still plenty enough that it is causing travel problems. Other thing to know here is we have another storm system coming into the West Coast right now, and I am going to mention this just because eventually this is going to impact the Great Plains here within the next couple of days, so that will also be important to our forecast. So taking a look at the satellite imagery here, you can see we kind of have two big storm systems. One obviously here over the Great Lakes, you can see the sun setting over that right now. Then back over here over the Pacific Northwest, another storm system coming here into Washington and Oregon, and that is going to help to eventually amplify after it gets over the Rockies and cause potentially another snowstorm here over sections of the Dakotas over the next couple of days. And that storm also back out here over the west is really kind of just round one of multiple storms that we're going to have on the way. And they're going to kind of cross different places of the country before eventually that last one, number 3, is going to find its way across the entire country and bring some unsettled weather really from west coast to east coast. So I did want to start here in the Northeast where we do have a little bit more interesting weather ongoing this afternoon and evening. Let me bring this map back so we're back at current time. So again, right now we do have some snow and rain showers here through sections of the Mid-Atlantic and widespread rain up here into sections of New England. As we go through tonight, that rain is going to hopefully begin to dissipate up near Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, but we are going to get some areas of lake effect snow to set up, and some of these bands Could produce 1 to 3 inches of snow in isolated spots, but overall nothing crazy. I just want to show that likely overnight tonight and into tomorrow we will have these bands set up, and some of us are going to really get under some of these bands for quite a long period of time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some places maybe overachieve here and get a couple of inches of snow, maybe 3 to 5 in some of those isolated spots here through Pennsylvania, New York, and extreme northeastern Ohio, where you get kind of stuck under some of that training of that snow band. But by the time we get into tomorrow evening, things look to kind of begin to dissipate, and especially into overnight tomorrow before Wednesday rolls around and most of that lake effect snow is gone. So just wanted to mention that for any of you watching up there into the northeast. So now taking a look at this week ahead, we're going to start with the pressure map because if there's anything I've learned so far in my little bit of meteorology curriculum I've taken, it is very important whenever you're making a forecast to always start by just looking at the overall pattern and then break that pattern down into more detailed forecasts, including things like precipitation. A lot of people like to kind of just jump right into the precipitation, but the pressure map really tells us a lot more than you might think. So right now we have, again, this big time low pressure here over the Great Lakes and another low pressure coming into the northwestern Pacific coast there. So as we go over the next couple of days, going into tomorrow afternoon, that one big low pressure is going to finally pull up into Canada, and we're going to have nicer weather here in the east, but then this other low pressure kind of begins moving through the Rockies, and especially going into kind of Tuesday night and Wednesday begins to really crank up here over the Dakotas. So this will bring its own problems, including some wind and likely some snow as well that we're going to have to watch out for on Wednesday afternoon there into the Dakotas. And then that one eventually kind of fizzles off and goes up into Canada, but then we get a second low pressure to come out of the Rockies here. And this one a bit further to the south here into the Great Plains, and this one will also cause its own problems, but this one likely more in the form of severe weather we'll have to watch out for out here into the Great Plains and the southern tier of the United States going into Thursday. And then we get another low pressure to kind of form here on Friday, and this is the one that's really, I think, going to impact just about everyone. This will also cause some severe weather, but something I want you to notice behind this thing is we're going to get quite the front to set up here, and we're going to have some very impressive high pressure here on the backside of this, and this is very cold high pressure. This isn't kind of high pressure that just forms. This is very cold Canadian high pressure that's going to come in behind this low pressure. That's really going to help to bring less of a nice springtime pattern and more of kind of a March kind of pattern to set up after this moves on through this week. But again, this is that last low pressure. You can see this. Let me get a different color here so you can see a little bit better. But this is going to finally actually cross the country, unlike the other two lows, which kind of meander around a little bit. This one's really going to trek the country, and behind it, after it moves on through, this high pressure is going to sink in and bring that below average temperatures through much of the lower 48. So that's what we're looking at with our pressure map. Now, if we translate this into a precipitation map, let's see what we are looking at. So again, right now, this is that big storm system up here into the Great Lakes, and then the other one moving into the Pacific Northwest. And as we move this ahead, again, that Great Lakes system moves on up into Canada, but then that other low pressure finally works up here through the Dakotas. And again, we can get some big-time snow with this in sections of Montana and the Dakotas, specifically the western Dakotas. Could get some big-time snow out of this. And tomorrow, I'll talk about totals a little more in depth, but right now I just want to show you that we do have a snowstorm in the forecast there. And also likely some rain moving into the forecast on Wednesday through sections of Minnesota and Iowa, so that's only going to exacerbate some of that flooding potential that we already have in those regions. And then that one kind of moves up into Canada and fizzles out, but as that one fizzles out, some of that energy gets transferred to a new low pressure system going into Thursday, and this one also brings more rain into sections of Iowa, Missouri, and through the kind of Great Lakes and the Midwest. So again, bringing problems there, and once again, likely bringing some snow up here into the northern tier of the country before that one finally moves on out. But then again, we get another low pressure to form down here. This one, though, further south towards the Arkansas area, and this one is likely going to be the one that causes some big-time severe weather, I think. And you can see this is going into Friday afternoon. This low pressure begins to crank up here, and then finally kind of really crosses the country and brings in this colder air behind it that is going to help to bring more of those below average temperatures. So you see, as we move this ahead into time, you can see that rain begins to really take over the East Coast, and this is Saturday afternoon here I'm showing you. And obviously this timing is subject to change, still being 5 days or so out, but I am expecting some pretty widespread precipitation this weekend east of the Mississippi, and I know that's unfortunate because we're in that time of the year where we have a lot of festivals out there, a lot of kind of football spring games going on, a lot of baseball going on. So this is unfortunate for, a lot of people have plans, but right now this is the forecast, unfortunately. So Saturday afternoon looks pretty dreary for a lot of us, maybe even some severe weather. That looks to continue into Sunday through areas east of the Appalachian chain before then going into next Monday, or a week from today, we really clear out with this very cool, dry weather behind that front. So that's the overall forecast right now. So a pretty big pattern change in store from what we're currently experiencing with this nice warm kind of weather to very stormy weather getting back into the forecast, and then a big time cool down after that stormy weather. So taking a look at the severe weather threat here, we are going to have multiple days of it, and this is starting on Wednesday. Anyone really from kind of Chicago all the way down to the Texas-Mexico border having a chance of some severe weather, but that bullseye being here through Des Moines, kind of Kansas City, southeastern Nebraska, central Kansas being under the gun for that severe weather on Wednesday. And again, all modes are possible here in terms of that severe weather. That's Wednesday. Now moving this into Thursday, that next low pressure, that kind of third and final low, begins to move through. And with that, areas to the south and east have that chance of severe weather here through Arkansas, Oklahoma, extreme northeastern Texas, northern Louisiana. So, Little Rock, I feel like, almost feels like I should know every street in Little Rock, the amount I've had to talk about it over the past couple of weeks. But that's, again, the bullseye here this coming Thursday. And then going into Friday, that threat doesn't shift very far, but potentially slightly to the south and east here, down towards Shreveport and Jackson, Mississippi, getting in on the action come Friday. And then again, Saturday, we could have a threat out here further to the east as well as Sunday. We'll just have to watch the trends on that, but that's still almost a week away, so we have plenty of time to watch that. The other big story are going to be the temperatures this week. So going into, this is Wednesday afternoon, I'll show you. Notice we begin to get a warm up here into the east, although still cold up here into the northern tier of the country where that low pressure is helping to bring in some of that colder air. But as we move through this week and we get these rounds of low pressure, it's going to kind of divide the country in half a little bit. So the east is going to have a very nice work week, I think, but back up here into the northern plains and out into the west, a pretty cold work week in store, at least compared to what we should have this time of year, before eventually all that low pressure finally moves on through. And look at this very dark purple and blues just oozing into the lower 48. And then come next Monday here, we are just well below average just about everywhere here in the eastern half of the country, and then by that time maybe the west coast will warm up a little bit. So again, a pretty significant pattern change on the way, one we'll definitely watch, and this is going to probably catch a lot of people off guard, but it's just something we're going to have to work with. And again, unfortunately, this weekend just does not look great east of the Mississippi. But hopefully, we can change that timing a little bit, and some of us can try to get some of those plans in during this weekend before the weather kind of goes downhill a little bit. But with all that said, hope you enjoyed the video. Again, let me know where you're watching from if you're new, and maybe share the video too with somebody if you know that they're kind of into the weather, or maybe they live in some of these places that might be affected by this. But again, with all that said, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.